and welcome back to the afternoon session, of which I'm going to be a chair of the session. My name is Ochola from TENMET as a national coordinator. This afternoon, we are going to have a panel discussion concerning the future of higher education in relationship to employment. And in the panel, I have with me, let me call upon Dr. Hagray K. Mlimuka, who is the Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of Association of Tanzania Employers. Dr. Mlimuka, you are most welcome. Yes, you can use that ramp over there. But again, in the panel discussion, we'll be having a Director of Planning, Research and ICT, Benedicto Chakaza, who will be representing the Chief Executive Officer of Higher Education Students Loan Board, which is a very key government agency in provision of loans, scholarships, and bursaries to students of higher learning. May I ask you all to put your hands together for Dr. Mlimuka and Chakaza. Maybe to start the session, let us have a little bit of a background of what we are going to discuss. And one of the issues that we want to extract from both the panelists is an aspect of higher learning financing. But again, we know higher learning education is one of the key major educational subsector, and it contributes highly and heavily in terms of our human capital. So we need to look at higher learning financing, but again, in terms of the products that are coming from the higher learning. But again, we would also talk through Dr. Hagray Mlimuka experience in the Association of Tanzania Employers. What are the trajectory? What are the issues that are out there in terms of employment of the graduates? Are we making headways? But also to reflect upon higher learning institutions with the financing, we're also going to get to know, for instance, last year, the government provided over 464 billion to finance higher learning scholarships, bursaries, and so on. But this year, if we are following very close with the budget, there is an addition of almost 36 billion to make it 500 billion in 2021-2022. That is not a small amount, and we would really need to know, what are we getting from 500 billion? Are the higher education financing boards sponsoring the right courses? And if yes or if no, we'll get to hear from Benedicto Chakaza of Higher Education Students Loans Board. Gentlemen, welcome to the session. And to start with, I would wish to give you an opportunity to explain yourself a little bit with your association so that people can understand the coverage, the scope of your associations, your agency, and what exactly you provide. Can we start with you, Benedict?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you introduced, Benedicto Chakaza Cosmas, Director of Planning, Research and ICT with the Higher Education Students Loans Board. And as most of you are aware that HESIL was established in 2005, and the act that mandated HESIL to provide loans, I mean to assist higher education students in Tanzania in loan basis, in order to enable them to access higher education in Tanzania. And on the other side, to collect the amount that was given to students since 1994. And those are the two main functions that we were given since 2005. And since then, we have already provided about 5 trillion shillings to various students and beneficiaries, which about 1 trillion is due for collection. So we have been collecting since 2007. And out of 1 trillion that is due for collection, we've already collected about 65% of it, about 800 billion shillings. And we have been providing loans in the basis of needy students, as per our act that we were mandated to provide loans to needy students. And therefore, we've been continuing to do so, although there are challenges in identifying and identifying the real needy students. But that is for another discussion. In short, that is all about HESIL for now. I think we will have more time to discuss much about what aspires HESIL. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chakaza. And let me turn back to Dr. Mlimuka. What exactly is Association of Tanzania Employers doing? And can we get at least a flavor of what the association is?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As our name suggests, we are an association of employers. So any person who is employing people to offer a service for him or her is eligible to be our member. We have been in existence now since 1960. Prior to that, we had smaller groupings here in Dar es Salaam, the chambers, the business organizations, but the association came into being in 1960. Therefore, we are older than the United Republic of Tanzania itself, which attains its independence in December 1961. At that time, it was known as the Federation of Tanganyika Employers. The association is really undergone changes. And these have been reflected from the social, political changes that have been taking place. There was even a fight, if I go through the records. At that time, it was an association federation bringing together the bigger the industrialists, the agriculturalists, and big commercial farms, factories, and all. And among the founders of the Tanganyika Electric Supply Company, which is TANESCO, that time it was private, before it was nationalized. And the whites at that time, the one who was occupying my position was a white man, a British. I went through the archives. They were even discussing his repatriation when he retired, how to take his effects back to Britain. We had socialism in '67 introduced in this country. So it affected our federation. Even the name federation seemed to be capitalistic. There are a lot of exchanges between the federation and the government at that time, that you are capitalistic, and therefore they change into the association. We are the counterparts of the trade unions. The employees have their own trade unions, sectoral trade unions, and they have the umbrella and the Trade Union Congress of Tanzania, TUCTA. So teachers have their own, the bankers, the industrialists have their own, and agriculturalists have their own trade union. So these are our counterparts. We are all partners to International Labour Organization, where the ILO has three legs: the government, the employers, and the workers. So we are essentially here to defend and represent the interests of employers. If we talk of the wear of the shoe, we know where the shoe really pinches, because we are wearing the shoe, we are consumers of the products. And by the way, he's talking, Sachakazo was talking of the billions. And unfortunately, part of the money which goes to Higher Education Loans Board comes from employers. The 4% which now employers have to pay every month from the wage bill. The big chunk of it goes to Loans Board, fund higher education. So we are really big, we contribute to education, on top, of course, of other taxes which we pay. But that's a discussion for another day. We do, by law, contribute a big chunk of that to higher education loans board, which is going to fund, which is funding the bursaries which the needy students really apply. Now the issue is whether, and this we shall discuss later, whether really we are getting the expected results from the contributions which we are making. And I think this will be the subject now. I think Mr. Chakazo will talk about the funding, and I'll dwell more now on the employability of these graduates who come from the tertiary institutions, the universities, and other colleges. Whether really, why are they not employable? What's the problem? And I think, and looking forward, what should we do? Should we just be complaining, or what can we do now to improve the situation? I think this will be part of the discussion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Mnimuka. And now I want to turn to Benedict, because we have some set questions. I would throw some set questions before I invite the floor if they have comments and have questions. But one of the questions reflects on the continued giving of loans to students, which is a positive thing. But again, we need to know how difficult the repayment of these loans have been, because they have been a very challenge in terms of students repaying these loans, since they do not have employment, or they cannot employ themselves. But now, in terms of your agents, Higher Education Students Loan Board, how do you strike the balance between funding higher education and employment creation? Is there anything that the agency is doing? I think in one end, you are supplying money to facilitate learning, but how far do you go, especially when these graduates seek employment, or when they go through the university system and eventually they don't get employment? Where do you strike the balance as an agency?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So how do we strike the balance? It's $1 million question, I can say. And we've been dealing with it all over since our organization was established in 2005. For the records, we started collecting these loans in 2007. And by then, the rate was very, very small. By 2014, we were collecting an average of 28 billion shillings per annum. But then after 2015 to date, we've been collecting about 180 billion shillings per annum. So that's why if you see the collection has jumped a lot from 2005 and 15 to now, and now we are talking of 65% recovery rate, which is very high as compared to other funds. But the question is, how are we now strike the balance between what we do, which we have been guided by our act? We need to focus on the needy students and the labor market. Are we really producing what, are we really investing in what the markets require, the labor market require? There are some conflicting priorities right there if you look at it, but we have been trying to balance the two. I'll give you how the process tends to balance the two aspects. Although we are focusing on the needy students, we are also combining with the national priorities. So you might find sometimes an individual with two individuals with equal economic abilities. One will get the loan, the other will miss the loans. And if you go further and assess their economic, their background, you will find that the one who got the loans, one of the reasons could be that he is actually pursuing a program that is of national priority or that is demanded by the market. The challenges are that we do not have an instrument that really a kind of giving a dynamic information on what the market really requires. That's the challenge. But we have been trying to balance the two. And as you are aware that our organization intention is to improve the productivity of people, of our young Tanzanians, in terms of making them, creating an equal environment. If the person is economically unable to access the higher education, then we will support him or her to access that education. But the intention is to make this person productive. So after 3 to 4 years of their studies, we anticipate that once this individual came out of, after graduating, you can say, this individual is now productive. He can or she can be employed or create employment. So in that way, we are trying to produce productive individuals who can create employment, not only being observed in the market. So that is our another impression of how we strike the balance. But there are still a lot to be done in terms of making sure that we really strike the balance between the market's requirement and what we finance. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you very much, Benedict. I'll come back to you with an aspect of national priorities. But again, you have mentioned an aspect of a tool that is missing to inform you adequately on what type of the programs that need to be supported. So let me just turn back to Dr. Mlimuka. I understand you have an extensive career in the labor, but also in the association. But I want you to respond on a question that refers that, is there any mismatch between what we are getting from the universities and tertiary colleges and what the employers association is trying to demand? Do you signify any? Is there any mismatch? And if any, what needs to be done?
Yes, Chair. I'll answer directly, yes. there is a mismatch between supply of skills and the demand. So what our tertiary institutions are supplying, the graduates have skills, but the skills which our graduates have are not the ones which we employers need. So the supply is there, but the supply does not match the demand. And why do we have that problem? It's because we don't have that linkage. You'll be surprised that this is not the problem of Chakaza. I thought Abrazak was going to come here. It's a issue of the policymaker. He knows very well. Since 2005, when they were established, those who framed the law at that time, 2005, thought that employers should be in the board of higher education. But the amendments were made later, they've removed us. We are not in the board of higher education. You can imagine. We are paying. When it comes to decision making, we've been removed. We're not there. And that is for higher education. Even if you go to vocational education and training, VETA also, for the first time since it was established, where employers are paying for VETA, 100% funding for VETA. We were removed last year, but an appointee was there, and then after a month, the appointment was withdrawn. I don't know why. So the trend has been, now if you're removing employers from these decision-making organs, and I told the Director General of VETA and say, don't expect to get cooperation for us. If you're not in the board, you're not there, you could not defend us, you should have told. Oh, you know, the law allows us, and I'm a lawyer. I said, well, I don't know, maybe I need to go back, and then although I taught law for a number of years, then I need to go back to learn the law again. Because the law which I read says the employer should be there. Now, who are the employers representing? You can call anybody as an employer, no. But here, as I said earlier in the introduction, that we are an association of employers. We represent the interests of employers. So we are not there really for that. So this is a big problem. And then now, in order to address that, we have to change the way things are. There has to be a linkage between those who are prepared. And I've heard professors, I've also taught for a number of years, defending themselves that we are not there really to produce for the labor market. We are there just to train, and then new employers absorb them and then teach them to be able to do the job. And employers say, we are paying, as I say, we are paying these fees, we are paying in terms of taxes, we are paying in terms of skill development level, which is 4%, which is the highest, by the way, in the world. The 4%, the highest. No research, no right to speak. It was 6%. We managed to reduce it to 5%, 4.5%. Last year, it was reduced to 4%. And we say it's the highest in the world. And we say we want to see value for money, and we are not really seeing this value for money. So the mismatch really will continue as long as there is no connection between the market, the consumers, who are the employers, and the producers, who are the tertiary institutions. And that's the big problem. So you find they're producing what the market cannot consume. And what you find for our children now, they're working with envelopes, brown envelopes. We have all these credentials, even up to master degrees, but does the market need this type of graduate? The answer is no. And there are, I know, and the commissioners here for education, I tell you, there are certain middle-level polytechnics, they are offering certain courses where a 3-year course, a student gets employment in the second year before finishing. So you can imagine. So it's as if now we are putting our mouth where the food is not. And I think you put your mouth where the food. So there is that mismatch will continue. And Chakazi are going to continue that problem, because if you sit in the board, you come to me, Razak uses his personal, oh, doctor, can you help on all this? Yeah, you come, I come, okay. But I thought the board says policy, the board advises the government. We have to be in the decision making where we have really, be it vocational, we are not there in the vocational board, we are not there in higher education. So it's as if we are a nuisance. We are maybe a nuisance. And therefore we have to be left out. But I think it's important. And all this can be sorted out if we have proper forum. And at one point, I really pointed out that we have to address the mismatch. We must be able to link what is produced in terms of the curricula, what is produced in the market, and what is at the end of the tunnel, the consumers. What do they want? They have to be asked. Do you want these types of skills? And I was reading a paper, newspaper yesterday. It was good. There was an editorial for this meeting, which is good. And there was an article somewhere saying we have to overcome the tyranny of the clock and the bell. And this one will say, how now? They were trained to eat in 15 minutes. And when the bell rings, whether you have finished your meal or not, you stop. Go and do other things. Now, do we continue to have sort of students who are like that, to do repetitive, etc.? And then you are going to fourth industrial revolution. Are they able to cope with the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution, where we are going to digitalization? Are we able to do? So these are part of things.
Thank you, Dr. Mlemuka, for your reflection on an aspect of supply and demand. Let me now again turn to Benedict on the areas of national priorities. You have mentioned that the agency is supporting and financing the national priorities, of which I think would address the demand and supply issue. What's your reflection on the mismatch between the national priorities and what you are supporting in the higher education?
So the mismatch between the national priorities and
the mismatch between national priorities and the market demand, right? That's your question. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't say it for fact the mismatch that exists between the two aspects, but what I can say is that before deciding on the priorities, the national priorities, one of the aspects that we are looking at are the demand of the market. And when you say demand of markets, it means even the public demand for skills. So when we are tasked that you guys, you should allocate funds, first of all, look at the neediness of your applicants, but at the same time, mix it with the national priorities. The national priorities contents include what the market requires. So that is the link between the two.
Now, can I cut you short a little bit? Can you really unpack what that national priority is? We may need to know exactly, because we have kids going to universities and we could be sending them to the wrong causes while leaving the national priorities. But also in the eyes of the Association of Employers, maybe there is something that they need more to see in this program. What exactly does that national priorities causes entail?
So when we say
national priority, sorry, yes. When we say national priority, these are, they normally tend to change. But for the past 3 years, we've been clustering them into 3 main clusters. Cluster 1 will include those very high demanded programs related to the following. For example, you'll see in cluster 1, there are issues pertaining to oil and gas. There are issues pertaining to teachers. especially in sciences and mathematics. And there are agro-sciences programs and issues related to health, particularly medical and pharmacy. And cluster 2, you will find issues related to engineering and natural sciences. And the last one are all other that are not included in the above clusters, including the social sciences and arts. We don't say that they are not important, but the supply is too much that we have to concentrate on these areas that we think we still lack some skills. So those are the items that I can say for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Coach Benedicto Chakaza, for highlighting some of the national priorities. I think participants have followed through. But now, this could be my last question to Dr. Agre before we invite the participants also to comment and throw some questions. We have a surge of young people, and with your association, I understand you do a lot of research as well and consultancies. But there is a surge of so many young people that exactly do not get employment or are not employed. And this is not only in Tanzania. And I just want you to bring an aspect beyond Tanzania. What's the fate of these young people, given the fact that what is being produced does not match the market demand, but again, the number in terms of quantity does not match the rate of the country to produce jobs? And what should be your advice in terms of what need to be done?
Thank you. The Inter-University Council for East Africa, which is a body regulating higher education in East Africa, did conduct a research. We showed that almost 60% of our graduates, more than 60% of our graduates, that's more than 2/3, are not employable. Not that the jobs are not there, not that they cannot create employment, but they're incapable. They don't fit. They don't fit into the labor market. So the situation is very serious. And in Tanzania, we have over 800,000 per year youth entering into the labor market, but only 40,000 are employed, only 40%. So you can see the situation is very, very serious. So we need really to have strategies where we can be able, and here we need the involvement of the private sector. I know Dr. Mauk is going to speak on the private sector, that we have to change. Even the problem, I'm alumni of University of Dar es Salaam, and the last time they did a tracer study, and I stand, Chris may correct me, Dr. Mauk may correct me, from my records of 2003. And I expect really the vocational institutions, universities, to be conducted tracer studies. Tracer studies for us are very important. That the university comes to us employers and asking us the hard questions. You have absorbed our graduates. What do you find from these graduates? What are they lacking? What should we do? So the last time this was done was 18 years ago, 2003. Now, what did they find, Mr. Chairman? This is what from the university itself said. While many employers have high regard for scientific and technological knowledge processed by graduates, they are less impressed by these graduates, low competence in English proficiency, communication skills, problem-solving ability, very, very important, innovativeness, creativity, as well as their negative, often negative attitude towards work and unwillingness to learn. It is very serious. When you are unwilling to learn, you think of a degree is enough, that is serious. Very serious. And negative attitude towards work. If you're that negative. Now, and the World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum produced what they call global competitiveness. We are not faring very well. We're in the last 10 world competitiveness. They indicated the following, that among factors that contribute highly to difficulty of doing business in Tanzania. Doing business in Tanzania, Mr. Chair, they are mainly associated with labor issues. Human capital is a problem. These include an inadequately educated workforce. They are saying our youth are inadequately educated. Then poor ethics, work ethics, and restrictive labor regulation. These are our means which we can take. So if we are able to address this, Mr. Chair, we can be able to. We create attitude, make these youth to be employable, and also to be able to create their own skills. And what are the factors which may support employability and job skills among the youth? You cannot share, you have to communicate. And we think communication is not very important. We are arguing, and I don't want to go to that education, Swahili, English, and all this. To me, is not very important. I remember one of my English teachers who taught me English from Form 3 to Form 6. When I got a scholarship in Germany, I was stating as a British. I don't know, Mr. Mabala, Richard Mabala. He was known as Richard Statford. He took the name of Mabala after being Tanzanian national. He told me, look here, I'm my British, but you're going to Germany, you also learn German. So you get your PhD and also language. So I can speak German, I can know the German, I say, we're still arguing on the language, we're not very sure. Are we going to English, are we to Swahili? And we're wasting a lot of time and things are moving. I'm told when I visited the EAC, Burundi was hesitating. Very well versed in French. They were hesitating. They thought that they were negative, but I told, no. Please just get into it. Now, Burundians are much more employable in East Africa and worldwide. They know French, now they've learned English, they're much more employable. The same applies to Rwanda, etc. There is the issue of teamwork. You cannot have, if you employ people, they have to know to work together. Teamwork is very, very important. Our youth also are lacking problem solving. We need people to be able to solve problems. It's very, very important. Initiative and enterprise, very, very important. What are we doing for that? What are we doing? Planning and organizing. Are they able to plan and organize? Self-management, very, very important. Learning and also technology. Technology is very, very important. Now, we need really, if technical skills, important, but also soft skills also very important. The banks cannot tell us. You had invited Ruthie, but there's someone who will speak on her behalf. NMB, Sierra DB, etc. They can't tell you the banks how much money they're losing. In terms of poor work attitude and part of the employee, thieves, we are stealing. Our youth are stealing like nobody's business. They can't publish it because it's scare you to put money in the bank. They can't. They don't even like to publish it. Quietly, they remove these people from the fair. So you find a person coming out with a project says, I want to come with my chief financial officer. They don't trust us. At one point, Kahama, the people with petrol station, they wanted to close their petrol station. You know what? You have their vehicles in the mining. I met one Caterpillar which can take 6,000 liters. Others 4,000 liters, 3,000 liters. Other those vehicles with taking 150 tons, those are able to, if you put the tanker 1,000. You know what a youth, you give him a tanker 2,000 liters, he feels here I have 200 liters, 300 liters to steal. People say, you have to take 200, 300 liters. They put even the GPS. And people say, where did you go? What sort of way? Can't I go and ease myself? Can't I go and help myself? You know, they're finding excuses. You put machine scanners. Sorry, you are all others here. Ashakums Matusu, you said. I'm sorry to say that. I went to one parliamentary session. The employees were saying, you know, many are saying these machines are making us impotent. We cannot function. Through passing these through the screens all the time, they remove our, they reduce our potency. So it was a pretext. You don't put the machines so that they continue putting. You heard the other day when the Minister of Minerals, they had a high time to pass their budget. They were telling they are doing inhuman. They're stripping people naked, you know, because people are putting on through the anus and putting on hiding and all these women through private parts hiding minerals and all this. All these things are done. Why should you do all this? And the women are saying, we are sorry, you know, with these machines we put there, even our menstrual cycle is affected. I excuse myself speaking of these things. This is attitude. So you don't want to be accountable. And the problem now, we pass a law, we have a law protecting employability of Tanzanians. Now the new president is saying, if someone comes here with his or her investment, these employees, what's the problem? We tell them, this is my business. I say, Ochola, you are going to look after my business. So that I spend, I sleep well. I want to sleep. Ochola, look at my business. I'm going to be operation. They tell you, Ochola, where do you study? This one? No. You have first class. We have here people with degrees, etc. We think credentials are important, but attitude is more important. We have HR practitioners here. They can tell us 70% is attitude. Only 30 is attitude. We have to know. If we don't change chair, we shall continue to complain and complain and complain. We have to change. I'm sorry that I'm blunt. That's why I call it a black and white, a spoon, a spade, and not a big spoon. So thank you, Chair.
Aspect of attitude. Reflection good enough to chew moving forward. Now, let me invite you, ladies and gentlemen, if you have question, you have comment, I know.
I have provoked them.
I know there are those who have been provoked, but it's good to be provoking so that we get to hear what is really irritating. I will go with a round of 3. First, you have a lady back there. I think it's Lillian. Ellen, good. And let me just pick another person. Kobia is back there as well. You are counted in. And on this side, doesn't look like I want to pick somebody. Oh yes, Sherman. At least I know the 3 I've just picked. So we're going to start with Helen, Dr. Helen, back there. Then go to Kobia and finish up the round 1 with Herman.
Thank you. My question is, first of all, thank you very much to both presenters. The fact that you opened up the issues that are really at the heart of every employer is very important. I'm Dr. Ellen Otaro Kwedion. I'm from Hakilimo, and my question goes directly to Dr. Mlimuka. And the issue is the attitude. It is the, I wouldn't say $1 billion question or topic, but it is the most important topic in our lifetime today, especially for the employment. Our question is, where and how can we actually change the attitude? Because attitude is not something is taught. It is something that is acquired. How do we encourage attitude change in the human resource? And at what stage? From family level, school level, upwards, going to the higher level. And number 2 is that how can society contribute to that at general? So we're looking at the educational perspective, but also the society, which means now it's outside the education sector. How can the 2 collaborate? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ellen. I would wish to limit the question to 1 question so that we have at least 3 rounds of questions, and everybody gets an opportunity to ask a question. Kobia, back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the inspiring presentation and discussion that is really thought-provoking. Mine is a comment really to us as civil society going forward to support the issues that have been raised. I think the problem that we have is the school to industry partnership. How do we enhance that dichotomy that as we structure the school, we are partnering with the industry such that when students are learning, there are sessions when they have to go and interact with the community and industry where all these things they're doing in theory are seen in practice, so that they do not only chase the papers, they also earn skills, and the issues of attitude, temperamental, emotion will be harmonized during this school and industry interaction in between the learning process. I call upon the civil society really. There are opportunities for curriculum review, and one of the things in curriculum review are pedagogical approaches that we can push for a curriculum review process that brings to life that partnership, that dichotomy between school and industry. I know Tanzania undertook competency-based curriculum review sometimes in 2005 for the secondary school education. But even if you assess it today, I do not think there has been any significant change in terms of improving the competencies. Probably the circumstances do not allow because of limited resources. But as civil society, we have a duty to push for curriculum reform in our countries to the extent that we move towards more of skill development than theory and attainment of papers. Thank you very much.
Our last set from Merman.
My name is Herman Longo. I'm from Unity Diversity Foundation from Mbeya. I have one question. We have been receiving some letters from loan boards almost each year, requesting us to report if there is some graduates we have employed them in our offices. So I'm asking, do you have any forum or sensitization meeting which you can organize to those graduates so that they can pay back the loan? Because we have our kids in the future. I'm afraid in the future maybe they can't get loan because you are giving the loan, they're not getting back due to lack of employment. And then I have for both of you too. You are dealing with employment and is giving a loan. Do you sit together and discuss about how to sensitize this young graduates so that they can get jobs or whatever? Thank you.
Asante sana Longo. You have 2 questions and the gentleman should be ready to respond. Let's start with Chakaza. I think the last question refers more to the letters you are sending to us every year, every month, demanding us to tell you whether we have loanees working in our companies and organizations. So I know it's through the mandate, but make it softer so that the employers are happy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy that they realized how important is it to collect these loans, because it will help some other students to access the education. So thank you very much for that. And your question about the letters, we've been using those hard mechanisms to capture information for quite some time. But in a very near future, probably next financial year, we are going to create a portal that each employer can just go and log in. They'll be given their credentials to log in and search for beneficiaries. Whenever they do, they employ new employees, then they can just quickly check if the employee is actually a non-beneficiary. So this is coming very soon. We are actually, people are currently working on that portal, which I think will solve a lot of those hurdles that we are facing right now. And I will talk a little bit about the youth getting jobs, because I remember I talked about that in my introductory presentation, that as a higher education students loans board, we provide loans so that we improve productivity of these individuals, anticipating that when they come out of that after graduating, they can employ, they can get employed or employ themselves. That is what we anticipate. Unfortunately, it might not be the case, but that is our impression. Probably I'll end up there so that my colleague can continue on another aspect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Mwinuka, to respond.
Thank you, Chair. The last from Herman, taken from what Mr. Chakaza said. We used to work together. I remember at one point the loans board asked us, the list of employers. We have the data bank of employers, we supply them. And we know he is talking softly, but the law is not that soft. It's hard on that. The law says you are an employer, if you don't supply, they come and inspect, you are guilty of an offense. You're committing an offense of hiding a beneficiary who has benefited from the loans board and is not able to repay. So there is a legal obligation into that. So don't hide. Just give them the names, they will know themselves. They'll pick the no. Although sometimes they make a mistake. They had a lawyer who is my student. One of my daughters, I paid for all my daughters, even my last from the son, for their education. Tell me, Dad, you paid for my fees. And then when he employed, the loans bond went for 3 months deduction. I said, I just called the lawyer and said, she has never, I have never. Or did you give her secretly? Maybe she didn't confirm she was taking, then I'm giving her money and then taking money from loan. They're able to retire. It took some time, but they returned the money. So mistakes are sometimes made. So I think also their data was not very good, the data keeping, but now they have improved. Now coming to the other question from Dr. Helen Otaro. I think from what Dr. Otaro was saying, I could see as if she was even posing questions, then offering some answers on the way. She's asking us, how do we encourage attitude change? It's true, we cannot teach attitude, but children learn from us, from our homes. You can't say have to be honest, and my children know I'm not honest. They'll just say daddy hapa na baba napiga, blah blah. Yeah, that is politics. They know, our children know us better than what we do. So we have to lead by examples. How do we do really, or from our own home? Do we encourage honesty and positive attitude? And you had President Kikwete yesterday. One of the first things which he left with us was the big results now. There were laboratories. And I remember in 2013, we had a big results now for 2 weeks at Kunduchi Beach Hotel, which dealt with what really making Tanzania difficult to invest. And I was a privilege to lead, we had 6 teams. I led a team on employment and skills. Now, come to Dr. Otaro. There we said from that, and we said to be correct, we have to start from our families. If you wait until these go to school, it's already late. They go to school at 5, 6 years, already late. So we have to encourage attitude, creation of positive attitude from our own homes back home. How do we handle our own children? And then we take it, it goes like that. So I know the Catholic universities they've included ethics as a subject, compulsory subject. But then at the university already someone is 19, 20, already late for me. You say, samaki mkunja kingali, mbichi, say fresh. You can't break, it breaks. At 19, 20, we're already late. So from family level, that should go. So all along, at one point, we were learning civics during our time in the 60s. We thought civics is not very important. We had Boy Scout, Girl Guide, we thought it's not too important. You think it's more important, etc., and all the other things. Politics. We think politics is everything. We went to national service, and we thought maybe that would help. I was watching a program, was it yesterday or the day before yesterday? Someone talking about nation building. It cannot come like that. I have my friends, I have Gogo friends, I have Sukuma friends, I have Waha tribes and all that. You learn from, the moment you are in Form 1 already, you get mixed up and all these up to university, then go to national service, you forget your Nyamwezi, so forget your Sukuma, your Haya and all the other things, you mold into that. So we have to start from the family all along, and then stressing that honesty pays, hard work pays. In Tanzania, the bank will tell you, at one point, the late Balali was governor of Bank of Tanzania. I was in a certain commission, and they came to us and said, the biggest problem in Tanzania is people paying back loans. Yeah. Paying back loans. We borrow, we don't want to pay. The moment you borrow, you crack your head instead of finding how to pay, you work out how not to repay. You see that? How am I going to go around? And then what we do as a society, we'll tell you, for those who are honest with you during Mwalimu's time, their wives, their children, they're laughing. There, the family, they have this. Baba unafanya nini? Umezubaa nini? Your husband is telling you, we mwanaume gani? Umezubaa, you are lazy, a lazy man, you are not clever. Look at that family how that. So we glorify. What do we glorify? Dishonesty. If you glorify dishonesty, and then you employ this child, goes and works even in a bank, the money which the young man, the young girl sees there, he or she thinks the money belongs to you. How am I going to kupiga? How am I going to take this money? And they're saying now they're not taking 50, 60 million. They want to think of billions. How am I going to do? They can't tell us the telecoms how much. I had a case where, watch out, very brave, very good young man. You know what he did? Use his brain wrongly. The bank is confirming. They call me, Dr. Mlimuka, did you sign this check? Yes. So the other one, they can put someone off for 10, 20 minutes. Then Ochola, I think you are speaking, you are not speaking to Ochola, they're speaking to Mlimuka, we are swindling the bank. And then I confirm that check, here I sign. And then the money goes. So to trace back, we have to find when did that call was made and those other things. Still, people were able, even though they were caught, they were able to file case and say, prove, to onyesha mimi nilibaje, nilifunga system wakati. And these are, you can show, they can be able to show that you were able to block and all these other things, you diverted calls and all these other things. So real things are done, you find all this. So society, I agree with you, Dr. Otaru, can contribute a lot. We have society as a whole, we have to say, we have a role, we as parents, as what one meeting, someone was speaking about the youth, they say, mbona na nyie wazazi mnafanya, mbona na nyie wakubwa mnafanya, why are you talking of us? So we can't blame the youth. These are our children. Some of us have grandchildren. What do we do now to our children? What do we do to our grandchildren? What are we bequeathing them? Tunawarithisha nini? Tunawachia nini? What are we going to do? We must. These are hard questions, but we must be able to search answers. The issue of attitude is very, very important, because otherwise, I tell you, when these investors are coming, they say there are no skills. Not that there are no hard skills. The hard skills are there. Some of the skills are there. What they are looking for are these soft attitude, honesty, positive attitude to work and all the other things. And even our politicians, the way it is. I remember PM Pinda at that time spoke in parliament and said all this. You know what the people say? Be it in opposition and even CCM, they shouted at him. What are you talking to us? We don't want to be told the truth. One MP at one point, sorry, on GFL, the Minister of Female Matriculation, was a lawyer. Very good. He said, I'm a member of parliament. I can't say this. If I go to that Tarime seat and I speak this, they'll not be elected. So you keep quiet, silent. So that you are elected. But is it helpful? Let us face we have a problem. And I think as society we have to do something. I agree with you, Kobia. It was just a comment. It's true. I agree with you. Civil society is coming. Partnership is very, very important. And in Europe, they have even some universities where you can not only in terms of school and industry, but even universities, tertiary institutions and universities. And all of us should overcome our ego. Employers should overcome their ego in this partnership. Universities also overcome their ego and be able to cooperate and even establish the method of cooperation that there are issue of patents, and all these trademarks. How do we protect them and certain all these other things? It's possible. We have seen for COVID how now they have agreed even to suspend, the issues of patents so that we can be able to produce more vaccines. So I agree with you. Now that will come in terms of CBET, we have said, where in apprenticeship you can have that, where the students have spent less theoretical, 40% theoretical, 60% should be practical, what they learn and be able. So Germany has moved. I said in Germany. They've moved very well in Switzerland and Austria because of their emphasis on apprenticeship. You find a master craftsman in Germany earns more than a university professor. So in such a situation, we're able, if you tell a child you can go through vocational, technical, they see a light at the end of the tunnel. But here, you also find hivi hata veta amekosa. You see, this one he's failed, can't even take him or her to VETA. So we see this as a dumping ground where people have failed, they can go there. And there is no linkage at the top there where we can be able to link vocational and the other education at the top. If we are able to do that, we can be able really to move some of this. Thank you.
What a power-packed response. Let me just go quick. Our time is not in our favor. To the next round. Oh my goodness, the choices are too difficult. The gentleman from the back there, but also let me give a lady in red. And on this side, I want to go with two ladies now at the stadium. So let's start with the gentleman from back there.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm CPA Ahmed Mohammed, a trainer from the Institute of Tax Administration. Yeah, maybe let me first congratulate Dr. Mulamuya for his focus towards employers' needs. For the past 12 years, I've been apart from being a trainer, I've been engaged in developing, designing, and participating in various curriculum meetings. And if you ask me if there are any faults in the curriculum, there is no fault at all. We have the perfect documents, we have perfect training methodology, everything is perfect. What's missing now is first the employer's understanding towards the needs of those graduates. If I ask any of you here, when you want to hire an accountant, what are you looking at? You'll find a problem because these training institutes, yes, it's true, they are static in their teaching, they are static in their curriculum, but they are there because they have asked the employers, what do you need? And the employers give out their analysis of the job. But the same graduates, when they go now for employment, the employers look at the naming of the degree, the naming of the subject, and they say, what will I give this? And the worst part of it, they are hiring only because they want a person to deal with money, and they don't look at the level that person has been trained. You can't take a person with master's level and give him a cashier job. Wewe utapigwa tu. So that's one area. And it's true. If we are talking about the competence-based education, yes, we are more than now 15 years of implementation of it, but the lacking aspect is the attitude. The first one, the attitude of those graduates towards the job. They look at the advert and say, what am I going to do here? They just want to look on the flying jobs that I'll be there for 2 years, then I'll own my area Takolanyani. So you find that they have their own vision of being employed apart from working for the employer. That's the attitude problem. It's not about the skills. They know what to do, but they have their own other ambitions. So if we try to mold their attitude well, and I appreciate what Dr. Helen said, that we have the family level, school level, societal level,
please.
and
5 seconds.
yes,
Finish.
and all those ones. So if we can copy from those what we have there and instill it to our graduates, then our skills, the universities are doing well to impart skills. The attitude, they'll find it where they are employed. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Asante sana for that comment, and we got you. Wait, was this lady? And I will give you a time, doctor.
Okay.
I would go with this lady over here. Maybe spare a minute or so. Don't talk too long because you are too close to doctor. So that you spare 1 minute for her to speak to. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chairperson, and thank you very much, Benedict from HSLB, and Dr. What's your name again?
Dr. Agre.
Dr. Agre, yes. The insights you have provided are very good. Well, I am Gloria Anderson from TEDI, Tanzania. We work with programs on relating to 21st century skills for graduates. And currently I've worked with University of Dar es Salaam and Zumbe University on the issue relating to mismatch between theories and practices, basically looking on employability skills. So this topic is my area of expertise, I would say. In the year 2017, I conducted a very minor research, and I presented the paper to the university, to the Mzumbe University. Basically, I took 100 graduates who completed their first degree in the year 2015 to 2017, and they were all able to get GPAs of not less than 3.5. And I asked them, like, are you employed? Have you employed yourself? And then 34 out of 100 were able to be employed or employ themselves between 2015 to 2017. And then I asked the 66, and among the 66, about 30 out of 66 were having GPAs of 4 out of 5. And they never got employed, they never got any entrepreneurial activity to do. And they told me that, Gloria, it's not that we have not been called for interviews. We've been called for interviews. Sometimes we attend even up to the 3rd interview. But at the end, the feedback they get is that you are not qualified enough, you don't have what it takes. So then it's not about the grades. It's about the skill. What is the education system providing to the students? Now, coming back to Benedict, I've been going through your website, and among the 3 mandates that the Higher Student Loan Board is having, the 3rd one says that it's to create synergies through establishment of partnership in student financing ecosystem. Relating to the theme that we have, collective accountability for financing quality education. I don't know what strategies you have in place, but I think as much as you're assisting students in the financing of their higher learning education, you should also have strategies on how are you planning to make sure that these students you're giving money for their undergraduate degrees, how are they going to repay back? It is okay, I'm also among the beneficiaries of the loan board, but I have never been told or being trained or being, I don't know, even just a session on how I will repay back, how much I'm supposed to repay back if I will not get employed immediately after graduating. What am I supposed to do? Nobody has told me that, and I'm sure even my fellows are not being told anything. I don't know, maybe now. So I think loan board, you really need to have strategies. Otherwise, you keep on complaining that young people do not want to repay back the loans, but they don't know the whereabouts. They are not employed. Do you have entrepreneurial training for the graduates? You have the database. Do you follow up to see? You know, so I think that is what we should have in place. But just lastly, just a second to Dr. Agray. I really appreciate the work that the Employer Association does, but I also encourage that you create the synergy and the partnership with the university to keep on training students who are ongoing on session on employability skills, the 21st century skills you have been mentioning, for instance, attitude and communication and so forth. And I'm sure if we will be able to do all this, we will bridge the gap between theories and practices. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Doctor, 1 minute before I shift to Alistair. We are almost beyond and above our regulated time, so we may not be able to take some additional questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate meeting Dr. Muka is my colleague. My name is Theodora Bali. I'm from the University of Dodoma, and I also appreciate the gentleman from London. Mine is really, I can't overemphasize the importance of attitude, and that attitude you can't really train it at the university. But mine is really the bigger problem that I have seen. You said, Dr. Mimuka, that you were in certain boards where you could have been, participated in decision making and maybe tabling the agendas that matter from those decision making tables, but you have been pushed out. And I am seeing the bigger problem I'm seeing is that you have given up. So you have given up where we are in the middle of the problem. You have these fights of the two giants. The one giant, who considers himself the major employer, which is the government, has pushed you out, and you are another giant that is also hiring, employing, and you have despair. So how are we going to get out of this quandary? I think this is my question. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Yes, Alistair. I think she's the last one.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is just short. I'm Alistair Kamugisha, working with the TENMET Secretariat. I'm bringing this as a parent to our presenter from Loan Board, that how often maybe do you update the database for the beneficiaries who are ongoing? Like you might be having someone who is getting a certain percent, like 40% or 60% during the first year, but when it comes during the second year, maybe he or she lose parents, and if you relate with the COVID-19 now, because you find that those children are fidgeting here and there, searching for them to fulfill the remaining certain percentage. In fact, we had the conversation, I remember during the lunchtime, that that's the thing which you have to look at and see how you will keep on updating, so that you, whether it is at quarter basis or 2 quarters, so that you keep on updating and filling in those who are in need, of which you intended to assume that since they enter the first year, up to the third year, maybe they'll be able to fulfill those certain percentages which they require to pay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hi, thank you very much. And let's quickly respond to some of those questions. And Cosmas, if you wanna tackle some of the questions that have been directed to the board, including an aspect. I also remember we had a session back there concerning financial literacy to your beneficiaries. And I think it was a move across Africa that the moment you give a loan, you can't just give a loan to a person who doesn't know the terms of the loan. Otherwise, you will be mechanizing a way to get rid of that loan. And I think Dr. Mlimuka have stated it well. People are getting loans and all of a sudden they disappear. So how do you deal with to emphasize on that particular question, how do you deal with know your customer experience for them to ultimately repay these loans? Otherwise, I think we are giving loans to the wrong people. What do you think?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, that question, I think the question was also asked by the lady in red. Yeah. So, we've been learning a lot from our counterparts. What we were talking about, IFA, we are the member of a certain Association of African Higher Education Agencies. And our counterparts in Kenya, what are they doing is giving their prospective beneficiaries a financial literacy training just prior to joining the institutions. And we are trying to imitate that in our country to see, because there is actually mandatory to take it before even being provided the loans. But here we can make it optional as we go so that people can get that education. And I agree, we'll take that comment very seriously. Actually, we have already started working on that. But another issue that I would like to talk about is about the awareness on the people whose information are changing after their first years of study. And you might find some people became needy after during their studies, and they applied for their loans and they couldn't get it because they were assessed as not needy by them. And I think it's the issue of information that we need to improve as far as public awareness is concerned, because there is a room for such kind of people to apply in any particular year, as long as their neediness, they feel that their neediness assessment is going to change. So there is that room. Lastly, but not least, I would like to put the record clear as far as the records are concerned. I can assure you that we have a very accurate record in our database. The only thing that we faced in previous years before 2005 was that we didn't have a common identification of our beneficiaries. So we used to have names and then the laws that were given. As a result, the names are common. You know, you find like in Zanzibar, Juma Hamis Ali, there are like 10 of them. So to know Juma Hamis Ali, who is who, it was a bit of a challenge. So we had to, like, if we catch you somewhere with the same name, we'll bring you the statement until you come and say, no, this is not it. So those are kind of things that happened in previous year, before 2005. But after that, our record have started to identify people with their Form 4 index number. And now we are going even further in the future, that we will link our loan database with NIDA, so that every application will be linked straight to NIDA identification. And that will even improve our identification mechanism. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Dr. Mlimuka, for, I don't know, quick 2 minutes will be fair.
Okay.
To respond to some of the questions that.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Mr. Mohammed from Institute of Tax Administration. We should not be very complacent. I'm also, Dr. Barry knows, and Dr. Maweki knows, I taught at the university for a number of years. Even some of the son judges the day before yesterday, I taught them. We should not be very complacent. I don't think that we are perfect. Nothing is perfect. And if you create that, if you are teaching, say, we produce perfect, we have the perfect curriculum, etc., then there will be no room to receive, inputs. Because you say it's perfect. You cannot perfect something which already perfect. You cannot continue to perfect something. So I think we need to improve. And you also say, okay, we employers are employing graduates for jobs which are not for graduates. It's true. That's what we call credential inflation. Credential inflation is, there are jobs which previously you could not employ a university graduate. You employ them because there are plenty of graduates who were not employed. And I'll give you an example. Institute of, I was reading here, I took a Institute of Accountants of Arusha. They are going to establish the first university degree program in apprenticeship in 2 courses, in finance and banking and insurance and risk management. The TPB bank is housed in this building. They wanted to go that quick enough, but NACTA told them slowly. You don't need to consult and all that. Otherwise, they would have launched it last year. So there is a degree program coming in finance and banking and also insurance and risk management, which will be on apprenticeship. An apprenticeship, more practical, less theory, and then you merge them and all this. So, Mr. Mohammed, there is we still, despite all these consultation, but things do change. There's a lot which you learned, for example, from last year with COVID-19. Things are not going to be the same. Things are moving, and the world is moving very, very fast. And the lady there spoke of, I'm sorry to call her the lady in red. Sorry to say that, I didn't get her name. It's true, the GPAs are not very important. Some people think that they hire the GPA. I'm sorry, even the late president sometimes would say, I know you, you got a 4 GPA, 3.8, something Sony. When you put a GPA, you sir. It doesn't mean that with a higher level GPA, then you are very intelligent than those people without GPA. So when it comes to, in terms of performance. Now, the creation of synergy, some universities have done. I've also been a university lecturer. Universities are arrogant also. You can't simply tell them, want to put, Nana Mekwalika, who told you and those other things. So some universities have gone. For example, in economics, they're introducing a new course in University of Dar es Salaam. The head of department came to us, sat with us, and asked how you have employed economists. And your members are employing economists. What do you think this economy should be given? What sort of? Faculty of Law to mine also came asked, because I think the colleague now, the dean, I talked with him previously, came to us and asked us, what do you think we can do to lawyers and all that? So in such things are important. They learn what we have in practice, and so that they go and do well in that. My friend Bali, happy to see you, doctor, now. We are together at the University of Dar es Salaam. We have no despair. I'm not a type of person to despair, although I'm about to retire now. I'm the last year of my contract. And we have not surrendered to the government. We are still, we know the government sometimes, acts tough, but we continue. And with our advocacy, we think that the government will one day they will realize. Despair, no. When we started 2006, you can imagine, advocating reduction of skill development levy, where it was 6%. People said, well, will the government really part with this money which is collected? We said, let us try. But in the last 15 years, we've managed to reduce 2%. And in the practice of Pokezana Vijit, those who will take over from us have continued pushing. That's what I'm trying to tell my subordinates. If you don't have stamina, in terms of arguments, in terms of perseverance, etc. And that's also very, very important, which our youth have told them, they lack perseverance. They have to persevere, to be able to push. I'm sure we shall be able really to move. So you're not be spared. We shall continue that. Chair, I think I've done justice to me. Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your question. And sorry for those whom I provoked, but that is the way we have to go. Thank you, son.
We have to end it here, and I just want to thank you all for active participation. And so many things have been discussed. You can follow them through. We have an app. If you have a question, continue to post the question, and the panelists will be able to respond. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the session. Gentlemen, thank you very much for sharing information, knowledge, and discussion were very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting me, Chair. Thank you very much.
And I'm sorry, guys, if there's anyone who is currently an honorable beneficiary, please come to me. That's polite.
You pay commission to Dr.
Thank you for bearing with that. No, it's fine, Mr. Ochola. Actually, I'm the one who's behind time. So should I save up the time? Ladies and gentlemen, you might have noticed that I pulled out a few people out of the room mid-session. I went to tell them, don't put us to sleep. Come back, strong, vibrant. And I know Dr. Chris Mauki, I think you all know him. He's probably advised you on marriage at one point in time. Mas married counselor, yes. Dr. Mauki, I'm sorry if I am not introducing you with the very best of your qualifications, but you're very young and vibrant, and you're very resourceful in the market at the present moment, and I think I see you going up. We're very happy to bring you up onto the stage with our hands. Ladies and gentlemen, please, my coffee. Some of the issues that I think they might touch on have been discussed, because the topic is the role of private sector and corporates in enhancing quality education. It might overlap into actually employment a little bit. And Chris, please introduce the two very vibrant ladies and gentlemen that will be joining you at the table. And they tell me this is interactive. Big story. I'll be Karibu sana, Chris.
Thank you very much. Good evening. I promise you that this will be vibrant, as Taji said, and if somebody sleeps at this session, it must be a healthy issue and not the program is boring. And please allow me to invite here two people that will make you extremely happy, as we'll be running this discussion for our last topic tonight. Allow me to introduce Madam Caroline Kavishe, Chief Human Resource Officer from TIGO. Can we put her around of applause? Sarah Caroline, all the way from TIGO.
Thank you.
Karibu. Then I would like to take this opportunity to also invite my brother, Juma Kimori, CFO from NMB. We'll put our hands together. As you all know through the documents, the topic is the role of private sector and corporate in enhancing quality education. That's what we'll be having tonight, and we are really trying hard to spend the less of the time that we have, because we know the biological consequences of this time. And when it comes to the discussion, please, you will be invited to share your comments and questions. Karibu Caroline and Karibu Juma. Thank you very much. I'm Chris Mauki, working with the University of Dar es Salaam Department of Psychology. Let me start with giving probably 2 minutes each for my panelists, giving out their understanding and their perspective towards the general topic, because some of the questions that will be coming are all focusing on our general topic. The role of private sector and corporate in enhancing quality education. Juma from NMB, you can come out.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karibu.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, everyone. Now, first of all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organization for inviting us as NMB. And I'm sitting here on behalf of our CEO, who has been away, so I'll represent her. When I was coming on my way, I was looking at the panel, giving by names, and I was very much worried that we don't have gender balance. It's good to see that we are now a bit balanced. Now, so probably let me just give a perspective in terms of course, everyone knows NMB, but I will probably take a minute if you don't mind. So NMB is the leading bank in Tanzania in terms of balance sheet. The only bank that reported 7 trillion balance sheet in the year 2020. NMB is also leading in terms of the profitability, the first bank to record profit after tax of 200 billion in 2020. And we continue to lead in the market in Q1 2021. NMB is an employer, and I'm happy to see that the Association of Employers are here, and we are employing 3,470 employees with a network of 226 branches across the country. We are also having other channels that you can use, ATM around 750, and also our agencies that Wakala, around 8,600. So it's a great bank. And when I was informed to come and share my perspective, specifically on education and the role of private sector in terms of supporting quality education, and I was looking at it in a way that to say, what is it that we call quality education, and what as a bank, as a corporate organization, has a role to play in the enhancement or improving the quality education. And I think for me, what came into my mind, and I think most has been discussed here in the previous session, and I was trying to recollect my graduate, my first degree time when I was at the University of Dar es Salaam 15 years ago. And I was looking at what I found in the market. What is it that we call quality education? And I don't recall at any point at the University of Dar es Salaam if I was told the issue of presentation skill and how to negotiate and how to deal with multiple stakeholders. And this is something very critical. And I think some of the things that have been discussed here, if you look at it in terms of matching what the market needs and what the universities or colleges and tertiary education produce, it's a critical topic and a national topic that needs to be addressed. So I will probably stop there, but really it is more of how do we then make our output from the university relevant to the market so that we are able to deploy where necessary, but also in terms of how to make them more independent and so that they can sustain the living in the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Juma. Let us hear from Caroline, perspective and understanding on the general topic.
Okay, I'm Caroline Kavishe at Tigo. I'm also a professional HR practitioner. I've been in this field for over 20 years. And I'm very happy today to represent my GM, Simon Karikari, who is at the innovation workshop today. Just going to the topic, a bit about Tigo. It's a key employer. It is the first telco that came to Tanzania many years ago. If you remember the time of Mobitel, it has changed over the course and it's now Tigo. We employ over 500 directly and over 23,000 indirect Tanzanians working in our business. We develop capability And TIGO's vision is to lead the digitalization of Tanzania. And therefore, we find this, it's a privilege to participate in the workshop today because we want to develop skills that will help digitalize Tanzania and transform our economy as we enter into the middle class economy. And the way that we have been doing that is to work in partnership with the universities in providing better networks so that people are empowered to be able to use our platforms. And we have been launching various products within the sector, the educational sector, that support development and use of our digital networks. And I will talk more about that, but I see the agenda today is to emphasize partnership between the private sector and the educational sector so that we can improve the quality of the graduates so that they can participate in developing Tanzania tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Now we go to some of the few questions that I have here for my panelists. I'll start with you, Juma. Are there any tangible contribution by the private sector in our education system and collective accountability for financing quality education? You can give us very practical examples to MB.
Yeah, so thanks, Chair. And as I pointed out, NB being one of the funds that is existing in every district, almost every district in the country, and being the most profitable bank in the country, we have established a program, or rather, so to say, just as part of contribution to the community. And what we have done, and it is within the policy, it has been endorsed and approved by the board, to say that every year we have to contribute 1% of our profit after tax to the community. So in terms of numbers, for example, 2020, we made a profit after tax of 200 billion. 1% of that is 2 billion. That tells you that the bank will invest 2 billion in 2021 into social responsibility activities. And we have clearly defined within our social responsibility policy that education is one of the pillars. So what we have done as an institution, according to based on the education requirements, the view to enhance the quality, because what we believe the quality education will entail the infrastructure that exists in the schools. The quality education will entail, to ensure that people get supported when they need. The quality education, so when you look at it, it will entail things that are not directly taught at school. So one of them being financial literacy. Now, as a bank, we have invested in schools in terms of providing desks, in terms of providing teaching materials in some cases. We have also provided lighting into some of the boarding schools. But most importantly, we are also currently looking at all this in the pipeline. We're looking at a position where we will be able to sponsor the needy students, disadvantaged students, so that they are able to progress in their schools. So as an institution responsible in the society, we set that much aside to deal with the social related issues, of which education is one of them. So far as we speak, we have like 1,300 schools that have benefited. And probably you see it in the news, probably on a weekly basis, if not, after every 2 weeks, you see we deliver desks to a number of schools across the country. So for us, I think infrastructure is very key. And the fact that we know that the government will not support it fully, so we are there to support the community. So I think the corporate world, the organizations like ours, have a very big role to play. And I think one thing that my colleague talked about there is around the partnership that we need to have. We need to write partnership that makes sense, that is beneficial to each and everyone. At least I can also request some other organizations that, because if you look at it from a sustainable development perspective, and if you link to the sustainable development goals, education is one of the pillars there. I think it is sustainable development number 4, if I'm not mistaken. Then every organization should be looking at how do you align your strategy with the sustainable development goals, and which we have done. So I think it's a call for one organization we have not done. So I think if we go that way, and if every organization tries to do so, then I think we're a bigger fund to support education. But I think also partnership, if you look at it from the system perspective, my brother Agre there talked about involvement of employers in terms of the local curriculum. Let me give you an example. For example, when I look at, for example, MBA program, right? Currently, I'm working as CFO. I did business studies. I did ECA at the university. I did BCom. I've done CPA. So I'm applying for masters. MBA, I want to pursue the MBA. And it's funny to see that I'll be sitting in the class studying debit and credit. Just because I'm sitting with other colleagues who have not gone through it, so I have to sit there. But the question is, can you look at it to say this guy has gone through this journey all the way? Does it make sense to teach debit and credit to this guy? So those are some of the questions that definitely have to be addressed. I think through partnership and getting feedback, looking at things in a very positive way, with a very simple, same aim of enhancing our education system is quite critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juma. Maybe we get the same perspective from Tigo. This was a perspective from banks and might have from a telecom.
Absolutely. Very much like what NMB is doing, Tigo is more focused on developing capacity and capability for its sector. So we have focused on partnering with the universities to develop practical training programs that will attract candidates at the university to develop in our sector so that they're instrumental in leading the digitalization. We've done that by having a postgraduate program, for example, where we took graduates and made sure they're half in school and half inside our industry developing. We did that with University of Dar, DIT, and IFM, in the sense that we developed a particular program that was for data warehousing course with business intelligence, for example. And the program did not exist in Tanzania, but we needed the caliber, and we developed about 8 to 10 graduates, of which some we managed to retain in our industry and others we were supplied into the other MNOs. We've also focused on a management trainee development program. That is, we take graduates across universities and we bring them into the industry and we develop them within different departments. A head of department will design a project, and that will allow HR to rationalize. We can bring a trainee under that project umbrella where they will contribute innovative ideas and also developing skills like project management, presentation skills, and allow their creative juices and innovation to participate in building our platforms and transforming our ideas so that we can continue to lead in the market. We currently have a graduate development program. This started way in 2009. It has evolved over 2012, 2013, 2014 with graduates that are still in the program. We currently just launched our program with 31 graduates who were sieved from applications, 2,800 applicants. And we only had 30 positions, but we ended up taking 31. I can't tell you how hard it is to see how ambitious young graduates are, and so many want to get employment, but you can only spare 30 positions. We also, through our CSR platform, have developed totally funded 6 students that on full scholarship. We have retained 2, others went into other industries. So what I'm trying to say, the private public or the private education partnership is instrumental in really defining quality education and really making sure you're developing the right skills for your sector. Because what we find with the graduates, the level of readiness to engage in your industry is not quite there. So if we're not going to participate in the educational transformation and preparedness of the candidates while they are in school and soon after they come back, if we're not committed to do that as an investor, then you have to be committed to bring in expatriates and have a program that expatriates will develop them for you. So we have a choice as a nation, and we choose to engage with the educational sector, and we must increase our engagement with the educational sector so that we can produce ready skills.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Let's move probably in a different angle from the contribution, the tangible contribution of the bank and the telecom. Maybe Juma can respond to this, and I'll also come back to Caroline. Experience in COVID and the challenge that it had to the community, especially towards lending. What is the contribution, and where does you as a bank come in if this problem persists?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Of course, COVID is a reality that everyone, every organization, every family has to deal with in different aspects. And as an organization, we dealt with it in a way. Thanks God, it's keeping us alive as we speak today. But I think if you look at it, the challenges that were posed by COVID-19 on education specifically, where you see kids are locked, schools are closed, and they don't have access to colleagues. So one of them challenge there is in terms of access to their colleagues, access to friends was limited in terms of physical face-to-face, which is also very critical from a health and refreshment and learning perspective. And then you don't study, so you rely on teachers to send probably materials for your kids to learn. And the other bit which was difficult on it is in terms of course, not every one of us can teach. All right. Now, as an organization, what is it that we think and we did? Of course, as you recall, NAB contributed more than 100, around 200 million to support the government efforts to fight against COVID-19, which is also showing that the organization was responsible. But I think that there could be more to do, and this would be only possible if we put in place infrastructure that will enable students to study remotely. So one of them, I think, is how do we then, as financial institutions, finance some of the requirements for students to study at home? So I know data was critical there, and I think it was probably the right time for us to ensure that we provide that facility or other assistance to our students. But at each and every NAB's families, even NAB's family, employees, we're working from home. What we did as an organization is to ensure that we provide necessary infrastructure at everybody's home so that they can support family and we can get in touch with them. So we assume that in that process, our employees would be using the same facilities to ensure that their children continue to get the benefit of what we offer as far as access to education is concerned. But if you look at it, to be honest, environment didn't favor most of students. Very few could manage to study at home. Understanding that probably what we see in Dar es Salaam was different from what we see in other regions and other districts, where you don't have electricity, enough reliable data, you can't access internet. Not only internet is an issue, but also the device to access internet, because if you go to my village today, you find very few people having smartphones. Very people would find having iPad. Not even, probably, if you look at my village, for example, I don't think there is anyone staying there with the iPad. That's the reality. Not even a desktop at home. So you can imagine the struggle. I think we have a journey to go. And this is where now, I think as financial institution, probably through partnership with the government, I know there are some commitments from the government to enhance that, to provide computer, internet across the country. But I think that needs, partnership for us to be able to genuinely support the initiative and ensure that we get there. I think it's a journey that we have to travel. I think COVID has brought in a very big lesson to learn. And if we take it easy, I think we may not be able to survive in the future should the same recur in the future. So I think for me, in my mind, and as an organization, I think it has brought a lot of learnings, and we're recollecting that to see how can we then support the community as far as education is concerned. But I think it's a national agenda that one has, policymakers, responsible ministry must digest this and see what is it that you can do, and also who are the partners to play in the insurance to ensure that people can study, students can study from home. So you have telecom there, you have banks. We are ready to support should the government engage in partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juma. For the sake of time, before now, you can probably start thinking or writing of your comment or questions, as I'll be soon to the audience after finishing with Caroline. Caroline, we all agree that education is evolving, technology is evolving. There's a lot of transformation locally, internationally. And as a HR guru, do you think the schools, the colleges, the universities, they producing the appropriate required human capital? We heard it very nice from Dr. Mwinuka from ATE, the experience. Now we probably need to hear from tangible HR. You're working with them, you're interviewing them. Are these colleges, universities, and schools producing the right people for you?
Thank you very much. In terms of being on the right track, in terms of heading towards tomorrow, the 21st century, nobody really knows the exact skills we will need. And therefore we can't say we are completely on the right track, but we know what is needed. We know, as highlighted by Dr. Mwinuka, we know we are lagging behind on where we are today. And the reason we are lagging behind is very clear, because our educational system is focused on educational studies, is not focused on the holistic educational experience. We're not providing a holistic developmental experience that will include building strength in entire competency framework. So when we say somebody is competent, what does that mean? When somebody is competent, is they provide the behavioral requirement for that role. They provide the skill base for that role. They could have minimum experience, but they have knowledge. Out of all the things I've mentioned, the easiest to acquire is knowledge, which is what our educational system provides. So all the other that is more challenging to provide, we're not yet there. And this is why our graduates lag. When you get somebody that's why you have that reputation, somebody coming from abroad is preferred. It's only because they're coming with the competitive behavioral competence, that is the presentation, the negotiating skill, the capability to think outside the box, to make decisions faster, to assess, analyze, interpret, understand the question at hand, focus, zoom in within a framework of discussion, respond while on their feet. So those are the skills that can only come through training and doing through your educational experience. So as long as we're not offering that in school, again, we have an option. Either to attract investors who will help us to develop that and be patient and ready to invest on people, i.e. they have the people agenda as core. Or we must partner with investors while the caliber is in school being developed. And this is why it was so important when Luca focused on it, the challenge of all investors, as many people as we have employable, they will tell you they're not employable. So if I would wrap it up, there is this element called business acumen. Even if you're hiring an engineer, and engineers and CFOs are making the best GMs, it's now shifting into choosing engineers for GM positions. The reason we're going there is because they have the business acumen, the ability to analyze the situation and make core decisions that are business related, not only technically related. And how do you get someone to be that competent? So it's not just learning. That's why your 4.0 is not your direct hire. Abroad, the educational process is called liberal arts, which means you focus on your core, but you must do liberal curricula, which is your economics, your accountancy, your psychology, your sociology, a little bit of history. And those are the things that will give you an edge when you are trying to build interpersonal relations. So you work well in a team. So you increase efficiency. And if we don't have that, we must be in a community, either in the family, that you had a very good parent who exposed you through travel and experience so that you were able to feature somewhere and be able to develop those skills.
Yeah, so thanks a lot. I think you have raised a very good point in terms of what universities are currently doing and whether they think about what markets need. And I think my brother Agri also highlighted it earlier. I think there is a clear need to reassess our curriculum, because when you look at the market and where the technology takes us, really we are not producing what the market needs. And I feel very sympathized when, and this is probably behavioral change that needs to happen, not only at the young age, but even with adults. I recall from my end, the first time I saw computer, for the first time was when I was at the University of Dar es Salaam, in the library. When I started using the computer, the desktop, right? Now, that has caused sort of fear to some of us. We are so fearful to technology. But the reality of the matter is that you cannot run away from it. It is moving so fast, and if you're not moving the same way, you will become irrelevant. Even as a parent sitting here, you can't run away from it. So there are things that are currently, emerging trends that we see. For example, data analytics, big data, artificial intelligence, robotic. All this create fear, and people are not getting into this. It will definitely make you irrelevant, whether you like it or not. That's the fact. One day I was discussing with one of my professors to say, you've been teaching finance or accounting, but what makes you not to invite someone who is practicing accounting or finance to come to your lecture just for 30 minutes to talk to students in terms of what we do? You keep on teaching the theory, you keep on telling them what debit this, credit this, but then don't see what happens behind the scene. So, and you probably don't have to pay me. You will be paid your lecture fee, whatever, but you don't have to pay me. But you just say, okay, can we pick someone from the market, from technology, from a lawyer who has attended the court, who knows how to argue with the judges, who know how to represent, who has been an advocate, to come in the class and share their experience, so that at least students can appreciate what is needed in the market and what kind of skills that they need to develop. Those soft skills, I mean, you know, when we were saying that no matter how good you are from a technical perspective, the soft skill will become the best that you need to have for you to succeed. I think that is quite critical. I don't think that our kids get that much from universities currently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Some of us are working in the universities, and we know this reality. Dr. Mulimuka will be. I'm glad that you were open. That most of our universities are extremely rigid. Some of us are forced to start our own organization outside so that we can train. I do training of soft skills in corporate companies in Tanzania. And we are so busy with corporate and government institutions because most of the soft skills that we train, they were not taught in the university. Effective communication, feedback skills, emotional intelligence, work-life balance. These people are supposed to learn wakiwa wameshafika chuo kikuu, and you say tayari samaki ameshakuwa mgumu. When you're telling them emotional intelligence, they are mzungu. So let me come to the audience. I'm not so much sure to pick 3 rounds because of sake of time, but I will pick the first 3 questions, and if my time allows, I will go back to another round. I'm not promising, but the time will allow. I will go to Dr. Bali, then number 2, then number 3. Dr. Bali, Karibu.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mauki. And thank you very much.
Please, sorry, Dr. Bali, when you ask, if it's a comment, you can give it general, but when you it's a question, make sure you direct it by mentioning if it goes to Tigo or to NMB. Karibu.
Thank you. I think mine is really to both of them. My question is, we have, I mean, the education system, we have quality assurance teams and bureaus at our level, the levels of university. The relationship between the staff, the officers that are assuring quality, and the staff who are also responsible for quality, because quality is process, is input, process, and output. But the relationship has always been the relationship of policing, and I don't know how you can help us so that capacity is built. Even the people who are officers of quality assurance know what they are doing. It's not just policing, but it's really building the relationship and working together in order to assure the quality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's question number 1. Karibu.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to Juma and Caroline for the presentations. Very insightful and very informative. Juma, I'm impressed by the level of corporate social responsibility budget that your bank has. And I think it will go a long way to, support the education sector. Where I come from across the border, I have friends who are in the corporate world, and they share with me sometimes some of the difficult decisions they have to make because of the political interference in the way the budget allocated for corporate social responsibility is allocated. I'm keen to understand how fair you are and how balanced you are in trying to allocate which school gets this amount of money, which district, or how you brave the political interference, so to speak, in the delivery of the corporate social responsibility. To Caroline, I think that you have a great program supporting education. Looking at it, I think it is very inward looking, so to speak, the concept of if I support this, what do I get from it? But is it possible then for Tigo also to look at the broader education support than looking at the graduates of 12 and take them to a class, train them and retain them? Well, that would contribute to them, but in the broader aspect of supporting education, can Tigo look at it more broadly, just like NMD is thinking? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A very nice question. I will go there, then I'll come back to my brother. I'll be given a discount of 2 more questions.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Selman Longo. My question goes to Tigo. Most of us here are using internet. Before the bundles were too high, we were moving to university bundles, which were at least cheap with a lot of GBs and what. But now all companies now, telecommunication companies now, their bundles are not flexible. We are not getting the internet on time. Now we are buying, like me now, I have Halotel, I have Tigo, I have Airtel. When I find the network is not there, I use another. So can you sit together and then stabilize your network? Because we were having Congo Taifa. We thought that the bundles now will reduce, but it's still going on. Like we were having maybe 5 GB per month. Now we are having maybe 2 GBs or 4 GBs. The bundles are flexible, moving, go down and there. Please, can you stabilize this? Thank you.
Okay, bundle issue. You're welcome, my brother. And I will take the last from my brother.
Thank you. I would like to cement on the last previous contributor on the CSR. I understand corporate efforts on CSR, but regarding to our theme, collective accountability for financing quality education. And we have lessons from the global. Now the Aliko Dangote, Bill Gates, Jack Ma are coming together for resource mobilization and financing for quality education. But I want to give an advice or suggestion to corporates in Tanzania. Now we have to think on collective efforts for financing, for education, or any other things. One of the major critique in corporate social responsibility, case of Tanzania, there is no, or maybe I'm not informed, coordinated efforts, and many corporates, they are providing CSR in the eye of marketing purposes rather than service delivery or social responsibility as it is. And they can think of it as a self-regulatory mechanism, and they also technically to stay together and discuss the issue that which is aligned to sustainable development goal maybe, or national agenda, so that we have coordinated effort and have the strategic results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was a 3rd question. Karibu Kaka.
Thank you very much, moderator and the presenters. I just wanted to share my own experience. It's not really a question. I was trained as a secondary school teacher, but then I applied for a job in an NGO in order to become a program coordinator, the thing which I never did. I was never trained in school or in the university. But what was happening with this organization is they have a very big training budget for capacity building. So each time a person applies for a job, for them, they don't care your background. Their interest is so long as you have the minimum requirement, they will train you. So we have engineers applying to become a program coordinators. They will take them, train them, transform them. Even the engineers who could not be absorbed in the engineering sector were trained and become very good gurus in program management. So what my advice would be, for employers, instead of employers to look forward to ready-made products from the universities, they should have a training budget, on-the-job training budget in order to transform these people, because not everything is provided at the university. One is given some basic skills that will enable a person, some tools, which will enable a person to even learn more, because as a teacher, we believe in lifelong learning. Of course, some people do not want to learn because once they have got degrees, but I think we need to complement what the universities are doing to our graduates with on-the-job training, maybe because of Vyuma Kukaza, and now the employers don't want to have huge budget for training staff. They want ready-made, I think, which will not be possible. So I think we need to balance, to complement each other. Employers to complement the efforts of our universities. We have to believe that a person who has got a degree at least has an ability to learn more. And not only learning in order to get a second degree, but also to learn some job skills and everything else. I was taught, say, for example, I didn't know logical framework. I was taught. I didn't know how to become a facilitator, a public speaker. But all these things I learned on the job and not at the university. So let's agree that people have potentials to learn even more. People have potentials that needs to be released by giving them additional training. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the challenge to every employer who is here and not focusing on the minimum skills people have, but has to be ready to take them and train them to be good. Now I will give freedom to my panelists to respond to all their questions, but for the sake of time, just leave away the comments, just respond to the questions, and I will start with Caroline.
Okay, thank you very much. And to your point, I'll start with that one. That's why I was very firm in saying, as Tanzania opens up for more investors in Tanzania, we should seek favor in those who are committed to the people development agenda. I totally agree with your point. Because of where we are in the educational process and the caliber of talent we're coming through the pipeline, we should attract investors who are willing to develop us in the softer side. On the CSR side, to your comment that you mentioned about it shouldn't be for marketing purposes, point taken, and we do focus on that. We have leveraged the horrible scenario of COVID to make sure that we provide e-learning platform wherever they already have infrastructure. And we have donated a lot of computers so that we can put e-learning to make it available for schools and colleges that want to offer e-learning to their students, so that it is a CSR return to our society. That's just an example. But in terms of the bundles, I understand because of the changes from the regulatory that were implemented, all of us moved to have different bundles, and it's taken time for us to go back to our traditional bundles that you enjoy. But you mentioned something key. In the universities, we have invested in improving the 4G network, in making sure we have towers close. And that's why the response of Tanzania to take schools back by June 28th, watoto walirudi nyumbani, walirudi mashuleni. We had focused to improve our towers and our networks in everywhere that we had colleges. And therefore, when we were providing the university bundles, it worked very well in terms of improving speed, downloading data. We also made Kitochi available at a cheaper rate, and so that we could focus on education. And that was our strategy, to focus on education holistically, not just because the skills are coming back into TIGO, but it's because we're leading digitalization. We wanted more people to be able to use platforms that are available and to be able to learn more and to remain connected during that time, especially because movement was limited. And our programs, in terms of them looking inwards, maybe I didn't have a chance to highlight everything that we have done in terms of reaching out to the universities, partnering with them in developing programs, so that the skills that come out are relevant, not only for our sector. I say we will retain 2, but the rest will go into the finance. A lot of people are going into PwC. My brother here, traditionally, they poach from us. We are the base of caliber development, actually, for Tanzania, in terms of skills that are not only for the financial sector, but for other industries that are digitalizing. Tigo has led the way because we do produce a bench. And when our calibers are, our skills are ready, they traditionally get poached and our bench moves into the organization. And that is one of the strategies in terms of leading digitalization. And the last one in terms of quality officers not being policemen, I think we had this issue with auditors. If we were able to transform auditors to be partners, I'm sure there's hope. But where we are, yes, they come in more at policing, but I remain firm that even though they're process, they look at quality, they've defined quality as process and routines of implementing education. I define quality as how well do we learn? How well are the people there learning? Are we regurgitating what was taught? We don't need that. We need to apply, we need to be able to think. So how are we processing thinking skills? You know, thinking is a skill. So we don't want to tap into memory because memory you can just delete. You delete so that you can reload more. Thinking is something, it's a capacity that you can do all the time at any wavelength. And that's what we need to be dealing with. And our quality officers are not there.
Thank you very much. Juma.
Yeah, so thanks, Chair. Thanks, colleagues, for the questions. So I'll start with the first one from Dr. there relating to quality assurance. By the way, I've been auditor for 14 years and at a very high level as Chief Internal Auditor, Regional Director Auditor. And I know what auditors do. And I've been Vice President for the Institute of Internal Auditors, so I know what quality assurance means. I think one thing that must come out very clear as an organization, whether you have auditor, risk management, you have quality assurance, is the alignment on the strategy of the organization. If you are all aligned in terms of what you want to achieve as an organization, then everyone should be ready to travel the journey, including the auditors. Auditing, quality assurance is not a policeman no more in this world. It's more of advisory service, so to say. And this is something that I've been insisting to my colleagues several times before I became CFO, that you need to ensure that you drive the achievement of organizational objective rather than being an obstacle to it. Okay. So the other thing that you can do, if it is not working, then you may need to have interactive sessions, training like this in a room, both management and auditor, quality assurance colleagues, and get that ironed out. Because it is a disease that if you keep on, not curing, then it will be a bigger problem. You will not end up anywhere. So I think that's my call. I've seen it working. Call everyone in the room and get alignment. See how you're going to work together as a partnership, as advisory service. Then the other question relating to how do you manage, whether from a CSR perspective, as to whether political interference comes into play. I think if you look at NMB, and I started by saying that we have categorically defined the policy approved by the board that 1% of our profit after tax is directed to CSR activities. Now, the choice to where to invest, we have defined the pillars. You have education, you have health. So those pillars are given almost equal share. And then in terms of application, and I will invite each and every one of you here, if you have studied in one of the schools and you don't see desks, go ask your head teacher there at your village to write to NMB and we will provide desks. We have no whatsoever have interference from the politics. And by the way, so given that definition of pillars and where we support, auditors will come in and say, why do you only support this school, this district, and this? So we are trying as much as we can, given our coverage in terms of our branch network. We appreciate every district, every school and we have been supporting across the country. So there's not much of political interference. I completely agree with my colleague there in terms of corporate social responsibility. And you look at it from the corporate governance perspective, when you look at sustainable development, the triangle where you have economy, social, and environment, I think collaborative approach makes a lot of sense, but you must have readiness for other people to travel with you. But as an organization, we appreciate that sustainable development is very key, and that's why. And I think there is that opportunity to partner with other private companies or corporates for us to see how we can improve more. And we probably have a pool. As NMB, we have something coming very soon. So keep watching and stay tuned. I think we'll launch something that will be fantastic to the community. The last bit that in terms of training, diverse, profession, I think that is quite an excellent suggestion there that I'm also picking, but from an NMB perspective, and this I've seen working, sometimes we tend to force people to go through a certain career journey while they have skill or, certain competencies that we probably have not explored enough. And as such, for us, currently we have what we call management trainee. After every 2 years, we take, I think it's more than 10 individuals, students from different university, graduates actually, from different backgrounds. So we'll have engineers there, and we believe, and I've seen engineers becoming quite good bankers. And as a bank, given our product profile, we finance mining, we finance manufacturing, we finance mechanized, we finance every sector. And we believe that having those people who have gone through different backgrounds are quite critical. And therefore, we have that program of which we enroll more than 10, I think around 12, of which, to be honest, the outcome of that is fantastic. These guys are doing a great job to the organization. And most of them, actually like 90%, have not left the bank. They're enjoying what they're doing, and we are also getting benefit out of it. So thank you very much, and sorry for taking much of your time.
No problem. Thank you very much. Now, Caroline, 1 minute to conclude, just exactly 1 minute. Then Juma will be 1 minute.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I think today provided an early start in the conversation of partnership, where the private sector can sponsor programs and develop capacity and capability to address the gap that exists between the skills that are needed for various sectors in Tanzania and where we are at right now, how we can develop those. I think it's important for government to work closely with the investors to understand their people agenda, even if we are bringing expertise to help us, how long that expertise will help us to develop upskill our people. This is so fundamentally important if we want Tanzanians to participate in the economic growth of Tanzania. And it is instrumental when we're bringing new sectors like the oil and gas sector. We need to be proactive to identify the skills, the unskilled, the semi-skilled, the professional skills that will be involved in that sector and start getting them ready now, ahead of demand. And that is what I'll do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Juma, 1 minute.
Yeah, so thank you, Chair, for the opportunity again. So for me, I will conclude in a way, let's embed and embrace technology in our education system. We can't run away from it. The other thing that I'm also advocating is that looking at what I see in the environment, we have a lot of graduates out there with no jobs. I think there is a need to also enhance our education system to bring into the independence and other capabilities apart from employment. Employment maybe, because we have challenges, say the skill gap, whatever, but also a number of jobs created to deploy people is also an issue that we have not addressed. So if we can look at teaching them alternative ways of living apart from employment. The other thing that I'm also very much not fond of is curriculum review to make them very flexible and relevant for any time. Lastly, but not least, I'm not very much fan of 7 years primary school and another 6 years of secondary school. Probably the time wastage. I don't know. That's my view. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my panelists, Caroline and Juma. And thank you very much for those who asked questions and gave out the comment. Thank you, my panelists. You have been extremely keen to time. Thank you very much. And I haven't been a police to you because of time. I really appreciate it. And thank you very much. May we all together now put our round of applause together for these guys. And we hand over the session to Taji.
No session from me. Congratulations. That was enlivening, isn't it? Huh? None of us slept. Thank you guys for keeping it very lively. But also, you kept saying, sorry for taking too much time. If we had more time, we'd mine your minds. For certain. So that was brilliant. Asanteni sana. You may gather your things, and I don't have much to actually say, except we've almost lost 1 hour and a half today. And so I've made a few suggestions. Early breakfast tomorrow. If you're here by 8, 7:30, we'll have breakfast. And then we run down. Remember the way I was almost about to run down? And then we took a break? We lose time like that. So tea should not be a part of our program. It should just be something that is there. You can go at any time. You were feeling cold, go have some tea. All right, so that's a good suggestion. So you come in, we have tea, then we do the substantive work, because we do have a closing ceremony tomorrow. So we need to finish our activities within time and to welcome our guest of honor to come through. We need to be comfortable at that point in time. We've done all the learning, all the discussions, all the dialogues, and all we're doing is we're giving a major feedback. We'll also do a rapporteur's report tomorrow of day 1 and day 2 that will feed into the statements that we'll be bringing out at the end of the day tomorrow. So I think that will be very effective. Thank you for bearing it. Sorry for the cold. This room can only be on or off, and it's off right now. And I'd like to say, have a great evening. Please join us for tea. Pick up some tea. Kama wewe makonde kama mimi, unaweka kwenye karatasi, unaenda nayo kwenye gari, you munch along the way. Sounds like a good idea? Yes. All right, guys, see you tomorrow. Fresh and early. We start at 8:30 promptly. Sio saa 3 tena. Sio saa 3. Memo unaweza kukatika tukapoteza dakika 15. We don't want to do that. Saa 2:30 kesho asubuhi. Please watch your applications at 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm usually up saying hello to you. All right. So if there are any changes, we'll indicate them on the app. But for today, it's been a fantastic day. Karibuni chai sasa, and have a great evening. Second day is done.
Thank you for a nice tea. Guys. Yeah, so for soft skills.
Yeah. We're working with